Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted all natural remedies to improve your health, then do we have the Simple Guide to Natural Health show for you. Today I'll be talking with Melanie St, a clinical herbalist, founder of the Psyche and Soma, and the author of a beautiful new healthful book, The Simple Guide to Natural Health. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about super easy to use home remedies for health and healing. That, plus we'll talk about peppermint white chocolate body butter, dandelions in schoolyards, omega-3 brownie bites, cayenne pepper Band-Aids, aphrodisiac oxymel, the power of avocado cacao truffles, and what in the world sweet petal lingerie drawer liners have to do with anything. Got us both on that one. So welcome to the show, Melanie. Are you ready to shine?
Oh, after that sweet petal lingerie drawer liner comment, I am shining already. Yes.
Woohoo! All right. So before we dive right into things, I want to go back in time just a little bit. Were you into all things health related growing up?
You know, as a little girl, I was very curious about natural medicine, and I would check books out of the library on, massage and herbs and things like that. But I did not grow up in a hippie household. And my mother is a registered nurse, very, very smart, brilliant woman, logical thinker, who was always kind of, even though she's a gardener and really a plant person in that way, she's always pretty suspicious about natural medicine. So it wasn't until I had a series of health crises of my own that I kind of started opening up to that interest that I'd always had. And then finally, after experiencing what it was like to be really sick and unable to get healthcare back before the insurance laws changed, that experience made me say, you know what, that's it. I've got to learn about what we can do for ourselves with the plants, with no insurance companies, nobody in between, just going straight to the source. And that was kind of how it all started for me.
Awesome. Then I've got to ask, what do dandelions in schoolyards and tea have to do with anything?
Well, I don't know if your journey is like this, but sometimes before that big pivot point where everything changes, you get little hints or like little kind of prefigurements of what's to come. And so at some point when I was an actress in high school and college, and I think I was worried about, being puffy and retaining water for my period, before a play or an audition. And I don't remember how I found out, but I learned somewhere about dandelion leaves having this really great ability to help with water retention. Mm-hmm. So more than a few of my friends and colleagues in high school noticed me outside the door of the drama room, like picking dandelions and then like boiling them up in a pot and bringing them to school in a mason jar before that was cool. And that I think might have been my first real herbalist experience before I really would have known to call it that.
And then if we fast forward for a few years, you did a theater fellowship in New Delhi. You came back sick with ulcerative colitis. How did you heal that, and how did that point you on your way?
So it wasn't quite as linear as that. Colitis is one of many kind of chronic autoimmune conditions. And I had had issues with it on and off for a long time, fairly mild, but, I was using conventional medicine and all of that was fine. But ultimately at the time when I had that really serious flare, I was working as an independent contractor, practicing massage therapy, kind of to support my my theater habit on the side. I'm thinking the massage is like my side thing, like not the real. But of course, that was the path I was going to be on. And I worked at this great place, but I was an independent contractor, and no insurance company would sell me insurance because I had a pre-existing condition, and so I started getting sick. And then, I didn't really know a lot. And so I was doing the thing that a lot of my clients do before they come to me. I was researching online. I was like, oh, raw food. I should do a raw food diet. Well, that is the worst thing you can do when you have an ulcerative colitis flare, even if it might be good for other things. It was totally wrong for me. I got sicker. And finally, I was in such bad shape. I was running fevers of 103 or 104 every night. and having many other symptoms that are not too pleasant to mention during this interview. And finally, I went to see an acupuncturist, and she was not able to totally turn the disease around, but she was able to stop the fevers. And there was nothing else that I did, no matter how much, Tylenol or ibuprofen I took, the fever would just push off, would just suppress, and then it would come back. And it was those acupuncture treatments that allowed me to kind of make it until I was able to, through a special program in the state of Maryland, was able to get waived in to an insurance program. And then I used conventional medicine. I took prednisone, steroids, got healthy, and then from there, that was when I really made the commitment to studying natural medicine. And I have been able to stay healthy since that time. So I really believe in using all the tools that are available to us. It's not that natural is good and Western is bad or vice versa. It's really about using everything at the right time and in the right circumstances.
I wish I had heard of you years ago. There was a time period I was on antibiotics for 5 years. I had chronic sinus infections. The doctor who I went to who did the second surgery, which in a sense was a third surgery over a decade, joked about a doctor or made fun of a doctor across the way and said, well, he'll give you the twigs and berries diet. And you don't want that. So I went the conventional approach. Now I read books like yours and the power of things like you mentioned, I'll never pronounce it right, Usnea?
Usnea, yes. The twigs and berries approach, I think, is pretty awesome. And, people have a right to want to go a different way. But if someone was like, oh, that's the twigs and berries doctor, I would be like, sign me up. Send me for the twigs and berries. That's what I want. Absolutely.
So going from twigs and berries, why do we want to use natural remedies? And how do they encourage prevention? Because that's really what you're talking about, a big piece of this.
Right. So I think there are two distinct roles that natural medicine can play in our lives. One is kind of the traditional folk healing that every culture has. And probably if you think back to your grandma or your great grandma, there are stories or there are things in all of our families that some weird thing that your grandma did to help when you had a cold or when you're sick that belongs to all of us. And these are things you can use natural medicine for things that you would not seek out a physician's help with. So that's your colds, your flus, your scrapes, your bites, your stings, your mild headaches, your occasional constipation, basically the kinds of things that you would go to the drugstore and get an over-the-counter remedy for. Most of the time, there is a natural option or a natural alternative. And the advantage is very often these have fewer side effects and they have side benefits. A really important one being the feeling of connection and empowerment that you have when you are using your own hands and water you boiled in your own kitchen and some, plants or easy ingredients to take care of yourself and your family. So that's one part, is kind of the everyday prevention, self-care kind of stuff. The other piece that is not really covered in the book, because I do think that when we get into this territory, you do need somebody to help you who has the training and can help you navigate. The other role that natural medicine can play is that when Western medicine is scratching its head and saying, I don't know what's going on with you, or this is all in your mind, or this isn't really real, what you're describing, or it's real, but we don't have a treatment for this yet. Oftentimes, if you then work with somebody who has training in traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda or another one of these systems of healing, they can look at you through a different lens and help you to make sense of what's happening and offer you some options. And that isn't really DIY. If it's something you'd go to the doctor for, you need to see, a natural health professional probably. But so much of the day-to-day self-care stuff you can totally do for yourself.
I love that. In fact, Jessica, my wife, the producer, she had, I guess we call it an accident with Sir Meowsers, who's famous on the show. He's one of our 3 kitty cats. And he accidentally scratched her while getting up onto the counter this morning. And we went to a honey salve to put on her. instead of going with a Neosporin or something like that. I was actually fascinated that then I tripped across later, and Jessica was a little bit aghast, the cayenne pepper Band-Aid solution.
Yeah, they seem scary, but they're really not.
So, but there's something about using that natural solution. It feels empowering. It feels connected to the earth. And something just tells you this is a little bit more right. We're not as disconnected from our healing process.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that, there's a lot of evidence that just going outside and being around green plants lowers your blood pressure and helps you to feel calm. And so I think there is something about our humanity that wants to be in relationship with the green world, and it just feels good.
Love it. So on that note, I want to talk a little bit about some guidelines, and then we'll jump into a whole potpourri of possibilities today. So first off, when is it safe to do it yourself?
So in general, if you are a person who's generally healthy, nothing big has changed, and you're experiencing a temporary issue that is something that you would pick up a solution at the drugstore for, or it hasn't been going on very long, you have the sense that you're kind of just at the beginning of a cold, those are times when it's okay, mostly, and your intuition too. Most of us have a sense of like, whoa, something really scary and weird is happening versus, oh, this is annoying, but it's not a huge deal. The other things, it might be a good idea to avoid doing too much DIY stuff if you take a lot of medications or if you have a complicated health history, if you're pregnant. In situations like that, you might want to step away.
Excellent. On that note, for pregnancy, what herbs should one never take during pregnancy?
I would prefer, if you are pregnant, the number one thing that you want to do is avoid anything that's beyond a food dose of an herb. So do not take essential oils by mouth. Nobody should be doing that anyway, but definitely don't do it if you're pregnant. And then if you're drinking an herbal tea, to relax or for enjoyment, it's probably okay as long as it's not a laxative that's going to kind of move the energy down, right? Or you're not taking large amounts of something that moves and thins the blood, like large amounts of ginger, even though small amounts of ginger can be helpful for nausea. But it really is, pregnancy is so sensitive. The best thing to do is to get a resource that's specific for pregnant women or talk to your doctor, your midwife, before you do anything.
On that note, for kids under 12, anything we should be aware of?
Yeah, the same thing. Kids are not just little adults. Kids' metabolisms are faster and a little bit different, and their needs are different. So most herbs that you can find over the counter, most of the things in my book are fine, but you have to you want to go slow with kids. And the other really great thing is that plants have kind of a built-in mechanism to keep us from taking too much of them or to keep us from eating them if they're not good for us. And that has to do with taste. And so one thing that's nice is like, it wouldn't be good for a child to have a whole bunch of cayenne or to have a whole bunch of real bitter herbs, but no kid is going to take that. So as long as you avoid capsules and, concentrated preparations, if you're using teas and raw plants and herbs, the kid's not going to take something that's not going to be good for them in general. And then also that essential oil thing of like, just please don't give your children essential oils to drink. And then I think we'll be good.
Yikes. Yes. Couldn't agree more. All right. Let's talk about some things we want to stock up on. I've got a list here, or should I just let you roll with some of the common things we want to stock up on?
No, you go. No, you go. Go for it.
I've got peace lily, spider plant, vinegar. Well, tell me about peace lily and spider plant first.
Okay. So these are included in the book. The book starts by kind of helping you get I'm sorry if you just heard my dog snort. She's sitting at my feet. By kind of making your home an environment that's conducive to healing. So behind me, you see my little aloe plant named Audrey after the Little Shop of Horrors plant. She's so big. So peace lilies and spider plants, or like having an aloe plant in your house, Those are things that can kind of help your environment be more conducive to healing. They purify the air and they make it feel nice. White vinegar is great because you can use it for cleaning. One of the biggest source of toxins and chemicals that we don't want in the home are going to be cleaning products. So if you get some baking soda and some white vinegar, you can take care of an awful lot of household messes without any toxic chemicals. And then add in a couple essential oils you like to change it up and get some more antibacterial kinds of properties, and you're pretty much good to go.
Excellent. And another one on there that I use on an almost daily basis, Epson salts. I love Epson salt baths. I'm an athlete who's been off for many years, getting back into it. And to me, Epson salt baths are heavenly.
They absolutely are. I couldn't agree more. I'm a real bath person, and Epsom salts are the bomb.
Tell us about apple cider vinegar and then honey.
Sure. So apple cider vinegar has some very interesting properties. Of course, you can use it to make salad dressing. You could use it for cleaning, but you don't want to waste your super good apple cider vinegar for that necessarily. And what you want to look for is a vinegar that has what we call the mother in it. And so the mother, I'm sure a lot of your people are into kombucha and fermentation and all of this good stuff. The mother is the culture that actually brings some of those live probiotic cultured benefits to the vinegar. So that's what you want to look for, not necessarily the distilled one. And really cool about apple cider vinegar, you can use it to extract herbs to preserve them. And then you can also, it really has some significant benefits for metabolic health. And there are good old-fashioned scientific placebo-controlled studies on this, showing apple cider vinegar's benefits for improving glucose and insulin response, supporting your metabolism, even supporting weight loss and more ideal body composition. So it's inexpensive, it's easy to do, and you can use it to extract herbs, make food, and keep your metabolism working. It's pretty awesome.
Very cool. And then honey, when we moved here to Colorado, just outside Aspen, one of the first things we did was to look for a local honey for our immune system and for allergies. Right.
So with honey, honey is made by bees, and wherever the bees are gathering their pollen, those allergens that would be in the air giving you issues are present in the honey at a very, very small dose. And so an allergy response is what happens when your body comes in contact with something and is like, whoa, we gotta get this out of here. We gotta, they're like the gatekeepers are flaring up. And so if you eat local honey, over the course of a year, it's not something that sometimes people are like, oh, take local honey for your allergies. Well, once you have the symptoms, it's kind of too late for the honey to help you right then. You got to start it and do it for a year. But just including it here and there in tea and food, and as you would, it's going to slowly introduce those pollens and those antigens to your immune system, so that then when allergy season hits, your immune system is like, oh, no big deal. I recognize this stuff. It's not the end of the world. And that can really be helpful. Honey also has some humectant properties, which is it kind of helps to retain water, kind of moisturize tissues. That's why it's very soothing to the throat if you're sick. And you can also use it on, like you were saying, your wife's scratch. You can use it on the skin or on the lips to bring moisture and also some wound healing properties.
How about things like crow's feet?
No, it's not going to do anything for that.
All right. But it will make your face nice and sticky.
It will. It's great. It's a great moisturizer. What it would be better for is if you have a little bit of acne and also dry skin. Honey is great. But yeah, it's not going to do anything for your wrinkles.
Very good. All right. Or not so good. But another favorite of mine, Miso Paste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I love miso paste. It's a fermented food that comes from Japan, and it was traditionally made with soybeans. But if you are someone who has a soy allergy, there are now many companies that make chickpea-based miso or black bean or azuki miso. You don't have to necessarily have the soy if you have an issue with that. Um, and it's a great source of probiotics and also of that special flavor, that umami flavor that gives that really deep, rich taste to foods. So I am vegan and I use a lot of miso paste to kind of simulate that taste of cheese, that like cheesiness, or to just give some more depth to whatever it is that you're eating. And it's super quick to prepare. You know, you can stir it into some hot water and snip some scallions over top and have a nice little cup of broth in 5 minutes or less.
Awesome. I was at Whole Foods a couple of days ago. I'm in their bulk aisle. I'm getting what I usually get. And then I was drawn and attracted and brought home this bag. And I didn't know why. I said, apparently my body is needing it right now. Flax seeds.
Yes. Were they whole flax seeds or ground?
I got whole flax seeds. Now, I know Jessica loves grinding stuff up particularly. She's been real excited recently about black sesames, and she grinds them up, and we put them with some, we found some cashew milk that doesn't have carrageenan in and doesn't have any other emulsifiers in it, and no sugar, of course. We put that on her cereal, and we call that with the ground sesame, black sesames, cookie and cream.
Oh, that's awesome. Yum. Yeah, so flax seeds are great. They have a lot of nutritional benefits, of course. And little behind the scenes moment. The recipe that I have in the book that you might be referencing is for a flaxseed water, flaxseed gel that is amazing for helping with constipation. And I wanted to call that recipe the magical flaxseed stool softener. And my publisher was like, I don't think we can call it magical. And I was like, you don't understand. It is so magical. But they won in the end. So the flax seeds are great for all of what they can do nutritionally, but they are totally unique in the way that they help if you're starting to be backed up a little bit. And what happens is if you soak those flax seeds in a full glass of water, let it sit for about 4 to 8 hours, strain out the flax seeds, and then, save them for Jessica to grind up later and put them in a smoothie or compost them, whatever. But save that water. And what has happened is the flax seeds have given off something called mucilage, which kind of sounds like mucus, right? So they've given off this mucilage. It also
reminds me of from Metamucil.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder about that word origin. That's a good connection, Michael. So they give off this mucilage and kind of turn the water into a slightly slippery moisturizer, essentially. And so when you drink that, because it has formed a gel, instead of the water kind of being pulled out by your large intestine and then the stool just kind of getting dry and being difficult to pass, that all stays together and kind of lubricates and moisturizes your digestive tract. It does have some anti-inflammatory properties too, which is great for somebody like me with inflammatory bowel disease. And then it can really, really help to resolve constipation with no diarrhea, no cramping, no issues. And I really like people to know about this, especially if they're going to have surgery of any kind, and know that they'll be on some kind of opiate for a period of time after the surgery, and maybe also inactive. If you start doing this remedy as soon as you start eating again, you will very likely be able to avoid any opioid-induced constipation. And it's just, it's so great.
Very, very cool. So let's go from opiates and constipation to plant-based milks.
Yes. So there are a lot of reasons why I'm vegan. Maybe you have talked about this before. And for me, it is not just a health issue. There are a lot of things about dairy that are not great for our health. But when you look at something from a purely health perspective, that idea of moderation really is true. a small amount of dairy here and there is probably not the end of the world for most people's health, but it is really devastating for the animals who are being farmed. And so because I believe we are all connected to each other, even when it can be a little bit hard in the beginning, yeah, it can be a little bit hard in the beginning to make a change. If, like me, you were not raised drinking soy and cashew milk, and you're raised on cow's milk products. Once you make that switch, you are not going to miss anything, and you are going to feel, you just feel so much better knowing that you're not participating in the suffering of other living beings that can feel and that want to be free. So in the book, I try to encourage people to experiment with plant milks. I don't think I ever say the word vegan because the book is for everybody, but I really, and then different plant milks are kind of good for different things. Like if you're going to make a latte, like a peppermint latte, I really like a soy milk for that because it's creamy and it's thick and it's got some protein to it. But if you want something a little bit lighter, then kind of an almond or a cashew milk is really nice for that. So yeah, so that's the plant milk steal.
Excellent. So let's go from plant milks. Let's talk a little bit about essential oils, and maybe you can tell us a handful of essential oils that we really want to keep on hand.
Yeah, so essential oils, we have to remember this is an herbal product. It is it's distilled from one component of the many, many, many chemicals that plants make in order to survive. And essential oils are present in a plant in very tiny amounts. So you can think of these as kind of concentrated power of the plant. Yeah. And usually the plants make these oils either to defend themselves against bacteria and fungi and being eaten, so their protection, or they make essential oils to draw pollinators to themselves. So they make the beautiful fragrance of neroli flowers or the jasmine that we smell that and we are like, oh, this is amazing. And then you like start to fall in love with the person who smells like that. Well, that's what happens to the bees. That's like
Drunk
we like
with love
the same
bees.
Yeah, right. We find the same things attractive in a way that even certain insects do. It's amazing to me. So essential oils are not different from the plant or the herb they come from. They're just very concentrated. So that makes them convenient because they come in like a small little container. And it also makes them very powerful. So if you had to start, I have a list in the book of kind of the 12 build your essential oil collection ones, but I think I'm gonna get it down to 3. Okay. So the first oil that I think you've got to have, and that's like always the starter oil, is lavender essential oil. And lavender is special because unlike every other oil, for general purposes, unlike every other oil, you can apply it directly to your skin. Mm-hmm. So I got a ton of mosquito bites when I was out mushroom hunting on Sunday, and I just came home and like dropped lavender essential oil all over my legs and just mixed it all in, and it really helps. It helps with any kind of skin condition. It helps with burns. That would have been another great option for your for Jessica's scratch. Yeah. And you can use it in all of those situations. It's also wonderful for our mind and emotions. So if you are working on building a meditation practice, but you're new at it and it's kind of hard to like get focused and calm down, you can begin that practice by putting a little bit of lavender oil on your fingers and then just doing what I call put on your own oxygen mask first position. Essential oils here, just warm between your hands and then breathe deeply. And if you do that as kind of the beginning of your sit or the beginning of your prayer time, it's a way to kind of mark off that you're entering a different space, you're entering a different kind of consciousness, and the calming properties of the lavender will help. Helpful for sleep, anxiety, and all kinds of skin conditions from acne to burns and wounds. So that's number 1. The second one would be another very popular oil, And this I would not use directly on the skin because it can be a little bit harsh. But the second one would be tea tree oil.
Ah, yes.
And it's also a relatively affordable oil. And this one is great because it is kind of a super antimicrobial. So it has a lot of activity against a wide spectrum of bacteria, fungi, just any kind of microbe situation that you don't really want to have festering. So tea tree oil is especially great to include in any of your kind of home cleaning products. And it's also good if you are, going to the gym and you kind of like got some funk in your shoes, or like getting some like athlete's foot, or any kind of situation like that. Tea tree is a really good oil to have. And it has kind of a stimulating wake up type quality to it. So you could also use it in a similar way to like a peppermint or a eucalyptus for a sinus steam, or to help kind of energize and enliven your senses if you're feeling a little like you're dragging. And then the last one, I'm going to pull out kind of a personal favorite that doesn't get talked about a lot. And if you don't have sleep problems, this won't apply to you. But if you ever struggle with insomnia, I highly recommend that you check out some nutmeg essential oil. Nutmeg is a hypnotic, which is the same class of drugs that Ambien is. And I do not recommend this, and I'm not going to tell you how much you have to take, but if you take enough nutmeg, if you take enough freshly ground nutmeg, you will have a hallucinogenic experience that's probably pretty similar to what people have when they like take Ambien and then stay awake. Not recommending it. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. It's not good. But that is kind of the signature of that plant. Now, what I have found is that and I love the smell and the flavor and the comforting, haunting aroma of nutmeg. What I have found is that using a couple drops of nutmeg oil in a diffuser helps my sleep more than just about anything else that I have tried, other than, custom personalized herbal remedies that are not, wouldn't be applicable to others. And it's beautiful smelling, it's easy, and it doesn't involve ingesting any pharmaceuticals. The thing that's hard about if you use, anything from alcohol to sleep aids to Benadryl to, certain herbs, those things might help you to seem like you're falling asleep, but they change the nature and the quality of your sleep so much that you're not really getting the full benefit. And there is none of that concern with using nutmeg.
Beautiful. And we're actually releasing a sleep program this fall ourselves. So that's fascinating to us. And in fact, on that note, what's a sleepy time potpourri?
So, this potpourri is a really old-timey thing, I feel like. Now that everybody's into the essential oils, we've kind of forgotten about the pleasures of potpourri, which is a mixture of herbs and spices that your grandma might have set out in a little dish before you had the plug-in room fresheners. You had the little potpourri. But you can also boil it to kind of create a room fragrance. So in the book, I have a potpourri recipe that is this sleepy time potpourri that is just designed to kind of help entice you into the land of sleep without having to take anything internally. And it's something that you can make yourself. And for that one, I think it's nice to boil it on the stove and kind of let it really permeate the air as you wind down at night.
Very cool. So on that note, I can't resist. What in the world is sweet petal lingerie drawer liners?
So, again, this is kind of an old-timey thing, but maybe you had a mom or a grandma who, when you moved into your house, had to like line all of the cabinets with a new paper liner, and like line all of the drawers with drawer liners. Well, there's an old way of doing this where you actually would have almost like a potpourri, or you'd have strewing herbs kind of at the bottom of your drawers, or where you stored your clothes. And this would be to deter pests, kind of keep moths and other creatures out, and also to give your clothing a nice aroma. So that little tutorial in the book just teaches you a really simple way to put a couple of pieces of fabric together and then some really beautiful smelling herbs in between those. And it's just a way to kind of give yourself a little bit of a luxury, and then also a throwback to some of those traditional uses of herbs that we don't really seem to do anymore now that we have modern conveniences.
Since you mentioned a couple pieces of fabric, it triggered a thought from a later section of the book, but natural fabric softener that you can put in, reusable fabric softener you can put in your dryer.
Yeah, so the dryer sheets idea is really about how, because sometimes people want, I am very sensitive to fragrance, so I usually don't want any fragrance involved in my laundry, but lots of people do. And so how can you do that without all of that, artificial stuff that can cause skin sensitivity, that, it's not the greatest for your home environment or for yourself. So this is really the easiest thing in the world. You just take little pieces of cotton fabric or old wool fabric, anything that you have, and put a drop or two of essential oil of your choice on there and stick it in the dryer, and that will fragrance your clothes. Now, it doesn't necessarily prevent static. So for that, you might want to add a little tennis ball or, some of those dryer balls to keep everything moving. But you can get the fragrance without a bunch of artificial fragrance and without having to buy tons of dryer sheets that you're just sticking in there and throwing away.
Very cool. From there, I'm just outside of Aspen. It seems like half of the country, the western half right now, is covered in, I don't even know a good word to say it, smoke. What can we do for smoke, and maybe smoke in our respiratory tract?
Yeah. So one thing that's really helpful is if you have access to a shower or to a steam room, it's really helpful for your whole respiratory tract to be well hydrated and to be in environments where there's plenty of kind of nice moisture in the air. So one very simple thing would be to take maybe a slightly longer shower and be in the presence of that steam, and then maybe drop a little bit of essential oil into the bottom of the shower, maybe one lavender for kind of that calming effect, and then maybe, to the extent that if if you're someone who has more of an allergic response and you're getting very clogged up, maybe some eucalyptus or tea tree or clary sage to help kind of open the sinuses. That would be one really simple thing. And then two other things that you can think about would be, number one, incorporating some medicinal mushrooms into your daily routine. For breathing related issues and smoke exposure, I like a combination of reishi mushroom, guajir, and cordyceps mushroom. Okay. And so there, those are things that you would be taking internally. They are generally very safe, but definitely if you take a lot of medications or you have any concerns, check it out with somebody. But taking a pretty decent dose of reishi and cordyceps would be very helpful. And then the other thing is an herb that I just love because it's like a big fuzzy teddy bear friend. Is mullen. Are you familiar with mullen?
No, I'm not.
Okay, let me introduce you.
I am not. My wife just had an herbal class and brought home all these fuzzy leaves, which are in the kitchen in a bowl right now, that are supposedly what do you call it? Something noxious weed, but it turns out is one of the greatest. So tell us about mullen. She knows about it. I don't yet.
Okay, so mullen, and yes, in a lot of parts of the U.S., mullen is considered a noxious weed or an invasive plant. It's often very abundant. So sometimes the problem with telling people about really great herbal remedies is that when plants become pressured in the wild, then it's like everybody's trying to go and harvest all that ginseng and the wild populations become endangered. Well, with mullen, we're in great shape because a lot of times people are trying to get rid of this plant and they have no idea how helpful it is. So In the first year, it grows in a 2-year cycle. In the first year, it's a little basal rosette on the ground. So it has all of its leaves coming out from one central point, radiating like a sunflower. And the main thing that you will notice about it is that the leaves are so soft and fuzzy. You just want to cuddle them right up to your face. And then in the second year, that little basal rosette grows a very tall stalk, maybe about 5 feet high. And at the top of that stalk, when it blooms in the summertime, usually around now or maybe a little bit earlier, depending on where you live, it has beautiful little yellow flowers and kind of a tall, tapered, like candlestick at the top. And in fact, people would use them for torches and candlesticks, dipping that in wax and then using it that way. And then those beautiful fuzzy leaves kind of coming all off of the stalk. And mullein it has anti-inflammatory properties, and it has lots of that mucilage, again, like we were talking about with the flax seeds, but it has a particular affinity for the respiratory tract and for the throat and sinuses. So I really like a tea with mullein, and you could incorporate, it's very mild tasting, so most people will not have a problem drinking mullein tea. It's very gentle. But you could mix in, if you like peppermint, if you like chamomile, if you need more kind of sinus opening and sinus infection fighting, you could mix in some sage or some fresh thyme. And it's just beautiful. Now, one thing about it is that I wish I had brought my bag of mullein over to show you. When it's dried, it looks like marijuana. So keep it in a labeled bag. Like everybody, just be clear. If you don't drive around in your car with it, because other people will see it and think that it's marijuana. And it's not. It's just this other fabulous friend.
I like it. When we lived on Hawaii for about 3.5 years, and we were told by an elder that whatever herbs and medicine you need, you will typically find, this is not in a city environment, 3 feet from your door. Whatever weeds are growing, whatever plants are growing, chances are they're actually there to help you.
Yeah. You'd be amazed at how often that works in cities. I live outside of Baltimore now, but I lived in Washington, D.C. for most of my life previous to this. And I've found every kind of medicinal mushroom that you want to imagine. Certainly dandelions that are in your background there, clover. There are mullein. These helpful plants follow us, and even if you live in the city, the chances are good that they're going to cross your path. Especially if you start looking for them, you're gonna notice them more often than you realize.
Beautiful. So right now we've got smoke out in the west. We've got a lot of rain out in the east, and there are people who both need to wring themselves out back east, and we have throughout the country people who are, shall we say, depressed at the moment because of the situation. What can we do to help pick ourselves back up or boost ourselves back up?
Yeah. So I think that this is where relationships with the plants can really come in. So depending on what your situation is, and I'm speaking now to kind of the mental health effects of our current political climate. What I would recommend that people do is that they find a calming, nervine plant that they really like. Lavender is a good option. Chamomile is a good option. If you are somebody who tends to get kind of tight and hold everything up in your shoulders like this, for women who have very heightened emotion right before their menstrual cycle, Skullcap is a really good option. For those of us who get kind of so tired and wired and you're so tired you can't even fall asleep, I like passion flower as a good option. But whatever, kind of do a little bit of research, whether it's with my book or some other book, and just see what you're drawn to. And then start with one plant at a time and drink it as a tea so that you can taste it. Look at pictures of it. And when we close, I'm going to do a little I'm going to teach you how to do a little plant connection meditation when we're ready to wrap. And so you can do that, sit with the plant or sit with an image of the plant. And the thing is, we can lose perspective that throughout most of human history, our ancestors from every continent that is populated have lived with terrible rulers who were selfish, who were exploitative, who did not take care of the people, who squandered resources, who led them into war. This is the story of our growth as a species and the struggle we currently have about how do we lead ourselves and each other. It's like we're not quite grown up enough to do it well. And the plants have been there for all of that. And right now, there can be a feeling of like, this is the worst that it's ever been. It couldn't be any worse than this. And I understand where that comes from, but something that can really help us is plugging into that totally different sense of time that comes from the plants and that comes from the land and all of the things that have been here since long before even our current system of government was invented, and that will continue to be here long after it is gone. And I think that not only the physical properties of the plants, but their longevity and their accumulated life experience is here for us and can help us to unplug from the matrix of the news cycle.
I love it. On that note, I've got to go to a real fun one. And maybe I've got one mixture here, but you can tell me if there's something better. I have cacao, cayenne, and cinnamon hot chocolate as a pick-me-up. Any thoughts?
Yeah. So chocolate sometimes gets a bad rap because when you buy commercial chocolate, it's the furthest thing from an herbal remedy, right? It's like full of sugar and dairy and wrapped in plastic. It's not really good for you. And yet, chocolate, cacao, the cacao plant, has always been held sacred by the communities and the indigenous people who have known it. Always was used ritually as an entheogen, which is a plant that can connect you to God. You know, it doesn't get, I mean, I think they all can, but it doesn't get any better than that, right? And in traditional Chinese medicine, which I practice, we say that bitter substances connect with the organ system of the heart, which is not just your physical heart, though of course chocolate has lots of great properties for your heart health and your circulatory system, but it's also your, the heart in Chinese medicine is the home for your spirit. It's the resting place for your mind and your emotions and your consciousness. And those bitter substances can help to kind of open that, open the orifice of the heart, connect us with the heart. And there is no reason why we can't enjoy chocolate and also get some of those benefits from it. So in the book, there are a couple, there's a hot chocolate recipe, which includes some, warming spices as well. And then there's a bitter, you can use bitters, prior to meals or to help with digestion. There's a recipe that uses chocolate there. There's some truffles made with cacao powder and avocado, kind of help draw on some of those aphrodisiac properties of chocolate. So yeah, chocolate, when you use it consciously, chocolate is totally medicine and you don't have to be ashamed about it in the least.
Woohoo! Real briefly, because we're going to get to wrap up soon, but you have a fascinating section on fitness and flexibility, or that's what you call it, fitness and flexibility. As I'm getting back into racing, the number one thing that I'm thinking about is recovery, recovery, recovery. Can you give me one or two tips? Actually, all of us could use this after a workout to help us to recover.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're already doing my two big ones. So one big one is eat as many plants as you can and as few or no animal products as you can, because all of those phytonutrients packed into the plants, even, the things that are just, we consider them just food. plants exist on a spectrum sort of between food and medicine, but even the food plants have a little bit of medicine in them, and the medicine plants have a little bit of food-like properties in them. So if you are eating plants and lots of them and a wide variety of colors, you are fighting inflammation. You are optimizing the healing response of the body. You are nourishing yourself with all of the vitamins and minerals that you need. You are hydrating yourself because those veggies are full of water. You're setting yourself up to have much easier and better recovery if you do that as much as possible. So that's one. The other one would be, Epsom salt baths and that kind of thing. But then, you can also play with some of the kind of powerhouse plants for inflammation. And turmeric is a really big one there, turmeric and ginger. So if you're not already doing some golden milk in the morning, then this is a really great time to incorporate that.
And golden milk would be putting the turmeric into a plant-based milk.
Correct. But here's the key thing.
With black pepper.
Black pepper. Yep, exactly. So what you want to do, and the directions for this are in the book, but you basically want to take the turmeric powder and then however much you're making, I usually make about a quarter of a cup at a time. So take about an eighth of a cup of turmeric powder and then a quarter of a cup, so double the amount of water. And then you just stir that together with a little whisk on the stove over low heat. And you'll see it kind of bubble up and it'll look creamy. And then it'll turn into a paste. Oh, and add your black pepper as you're doing that, because the black pepper helps to make the curcumin more bioavailable. Then you've got this paste, and you can stick that in the fridge. It'll keep for a couple weeks. And when you want to have your milk, all that you do is just take that paste out and stir it in, and it mixes in evenly. Where if you just put the turmeric right in the milk, it doesn't mix very nicely.
Thank you. And on that note, one that something I'm always drawn to, but I've never heard of this for recovery, and I'm not going to pronounce this right. How do I even go there? Eleuthero. Eleuthero miso soup. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So this must be why for so long we just called it Siberian ginseng. So Eleutherococcus senticosus used to be called Siberian ginseng, and we are not allowed to call it that anymore. So if you see anybody calling it that, don't buy it from them because they are not following the rules and they're probably breaking other rules too. But it is an adaptogenic herb that helps us to make all of our body's responses to physical and emotional stress work better. And it was tested originally by the Russian government when we were in the space race. And the cosmonauts were using this plant and getting much, much better results in terms of their ability to withstand the extreme pressures of space flight. So we have a lot of great research on it, and it's really helpful for athletes. It's my top choice for people who are working on their athletic progress.
Is Eleuthero easy to come by?
Yeah, it is. It's not, it's much less expensive than some of the other adaptogens. And in the book, I mean, of course, a lot of these things you can buy pills and powders and capsules and stuff, but I want you as much as possible to get your hands on the real thing and have a relationship with it. So I really like cooking adaptogenic herbs like Eleuthero or like astragalus into soup. And it is so easy to do. The miso soup is really easy, comes together really well. And once you learn how to do this, the secret is you can basically add these herbs to any soup that you make that you like. Just putting them in some cheesecloth or some muslin so that you can easily lift them out. And you can turn any soup that you make into a supercharged, adaptogenic, healing food. And hopefully, it always is one of my goals when I have clients come to me to be like, okay, well, how many supplements are you currently taking? And it's usually like 5 billion. And it's like, well, let's try to get that down to maybe 1 or 2. Like, you don't need like 5 billion bottles and jars of stuff. We just need good food and tea and that kind of thing.
for women's health, what do women need? Urinary tract infections. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, okay, urinary tract infections. Okay, so everybody listen close. Once you have symptoms, cranberry juice is not going to cut it. Cranberry juice is everybody's go-to UTI remedy, but it does not work once you're already having a problem. It does help if you get that, great concentrated, unsweetened cranberry juice that you dilute in water, and you just include that as part of your, daily regimen. If you are someone who's prone to UTIs, that can help to cut down on the frequency that you have infections, because the cranberry prevents the bacteria from adhering into the inside of the urethra. But if you start to actually have symptoms, as long as you don't have any other contraindications for this, I think echinacea is the way to go. So I like, and you have to think in terms of protocols rather than in terms of one herb. So I like a protocol that includes the cranberry juice to help kind of cut down the bacteria adherence. I like to include marshmallow root, which is kind of like the mullein and the flax. This is really, it must be because you're in that dry, smoky environment. We're talking about all of the yin, kind of moistening, all of those herbs are coming up today. It's really interesting. So I like to include marshmallow root because it helps to soothe and protect that inflamed epithelial tissue of the urinary tract and the bladder wall. So you can make a cooler that incorporates both cranberry juice and marshmallow root, and then drink large quantities of that. And then at the same time, use a tincture of echinacea every hour on the hour at pretty large doses until either your symptoms go away, or if they start to get worse, if you see blood in your urine, if you start to run a fever, then that is a time when it's appropriate to consider antibiotics and to get medical care, because you don't want to lose a kidney over your ideological commitment to not taking antibiotics. Like, it's much more important, like, preserve your kidney, take them if you need them, and then we'll rebuild your gut flora after the fact.
That makes sense. How about cramps?
So there are sort of two approaches to treating cramps. There's the relieve the symptoms approach, and then there's the get to the root of the problem approach. For the sake of time, I'll just mention kind of the relieve the symptoms approach now. And I really like a ginger compress for this. Most women know, if you've had cramps, that a lot of the time, like, heat and warmth is so comforting and really does help to relieve some of those symptoms. It also helps to kind of improve the pelvic circulation, which is part of why things are getting cramped, is like your body is trying to get some stagnation moved out. So applying heat can be very helpful. But you can even up the ante on that a little bit more by including herbs that help to move the blood, like ginger, and then like black haw or cramp bark, which are antispasmodic herbs that help to reduce some of that excess muscle contraction. So yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite cramp approach.
We're in baby making time here, something of that sort. Any recommendations there? Yeah.
So I think the most helpful thing is for women to and their partners to learn about fertility awareness and or natural family planning. It's called in some circles, and this is, I think, helpful whether or not you're trying to conceive, because it helps you to learn how to read the signs, the fertility signs from your own body. And then it can help you to time intercourse, either to promote or to avoid conception. And if you are tracking all of those symptoms or those signs, you are going to know that you're pregnant sooner, and you are going to develop a much keener understanding of what's happening within your own body. It's totally priceless. The other thing would be really like take care of your stress level, allow yourself to receive support. All animals, all mammals are much more likely to conceive during times of abundance and safety. Our bodies know that on a deep level. So when you're afraid and when you're like, oh, I'm so worried if I'm going to get pregnant or I'm not, and it's so hard to avoid that. But as much as you can, drink those relaxing teas, like chill out, like give yourself time. And then red raspberry leaf, of course, is the time-honored favorite of women who are trying to conceive, and it's safe for early pregnancy. And it's great because you can drink a great big mug of raspberry leaf infusion and get lots of vitamins and minerals and nutrients that your body is going to need for the major undertaking of pregnancy. And it also just very gently helps to support and we would say tonify. So very gently helps to kind of strengthen and tone the uterine muscles and help the uterine environment to be as healthy as possible. And there are no worries about that herb in pregnancy. Chamomile is also generally fine. Lavender is fine. But there is nothing like knowing your own body. That is really the most important place to start.
That makes sense. On that note, where can people go to find your beautiful book and to find out more?
Oh, thank you so much. So the book we've been talking about is called The Simple Guide to Natural Health. And it is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Target and perhaps other booksellers that I'm not aware of in the United States, as well as in Canada, the UK, India, and Australia. So hopefully wherever you are in the world, you can find it if you would like. And if all else fails, you can just type The Simple Guide to Natural Health and see, it'll show you on Google, the magic of Google.
And your URL is?
Oh, and if people want to find me, so most of you listening are probably healthy and in a place where you just want prevention and you want to take charge of your own health, then the book is really kind of all that you need. But if, as we've been talking, and you've resonated with some other part of my story or have deeper health challenges, you can visit my website, which is psycheandsoma.com. It is not easy to spell, so you may just want to search my name, Melanie St, Herbalist, and then find it like that. But my website is Psyche and Soma, which talks about the union of our souls and our bodies. And you can find me there if you want to schedule an individual consultation or get additional resources about herbal medicine and whether that would be appropriate for you.
Phenomenal. So if you didn't catch psycheandsoma.org or have it spelled right, come on over to inspirenationshow.com and we'll have the link to get you over to psycheandsoma.org. Got just two.
.com. Sorry.
.com then.
Yeah.
We've got that. And just two quick questions, then maybe time for a very brief meditation. This is, everybody, you want to get this book. There's so much in here, and you're probably going to find a chapter that you're drawn to, and then you're just going to start playing with each thing and finding what resonates with you. Two last things. First off, a homework assignment for people. Where should people take action, or is there one health thing that people should do today?
Oh, that's such a good one. Well, you who are listening, you already know what the one health thing that you need to do is, don't you? Like, you know what it is. For all of us, there is usually something that's been nagging at us. We have, it's not usually an information problem. It's usually we have a motivation challenge or we have logistical issues. What I would say is that the first step is just to be honest with yourself. So I would say today, right now, just write down in an email or in a text to another person who you love and trust and say, hey, I've been working on this. I keep trying not to snack at night and I'm having a really hard time. Like, will you be my buddy? Will you support me? Will you help me? Whatever the thing is, or, if you've been secretly smoking and you think all of your friends would judge you so hard if they knew, reach out and tell someone, connect with someone, and just be honest with yourself about whatever that thing is that you're struggling with. Don't try to do it alone, and don't try to like overhaul your whole life. Just get honest and put it out there. And I think just that relief can really start to move things in a really good direction.
Woohoo! And any last words of wisdom you want to share with people?
You know, it would just be this, that as you are evaluating the products and the claims and the gurus and the experts, you know, this goes for me, this goes for Michael, anybody that you're listening to, always remember, you know, this idea of simplicity is not meant to just pander to you or be like, oh, well, you know, you don't want the complex, or you don't want to know all of the advanced stuff. No, it's not about that. It's that things that are really true and really useful usually are elegant and simple, and you can feel it in your heart and your body when that's the case. So, you know, just keep an eye on yourself as you're taking in information, or as you're considering a supplement to buy, or a program to do, or a class to take. If you're getting amped up and you're feeling anxious and you're feeling itchy, like your life isn't going to be okay if you don't do this thing, or you've got to do this 10-step detox, or else, you know, you're going to die with 20 pounds of waste in your colon, like Elvis or something, you know, like if you're starting to feel that way, take that as a sign that you might be being manipulated. And as you just tune in and connect with your own heart, you're going to be able to tell so often that a lot of what is being sold to you, you don't need. And the things that are good and wholesome and the people who are real, you're going to be able to feel it in your heart. And that's, you know, we need that for all of life.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Would you have time for a very brief meditation then?
Yes, I would be delighted. I would be delighted.
Goody. Let's do it. Unless you're driving down the road, in which case, play this part afterwards when you get home.
Yeah. So I would just invite you to, if you have a window nearby that looks out into any green space, go ahead and let yourself actually do this meditation with your eyes open, looking out the window. If not, you can close your eyes, and I will prompt for both situations. So wherever you are, eyes open or closed, I'm going to just take 3 deep breaths with one hand over the center of the chest, feeling the heartbeat through the palm. Just inhale and exhale, and allow your open palm to receive the beat of your heart. One more breath here. And then keeping your hand connected here at the center of your chest where your heart is beating. If your eyes are open, let them come to rest on any plant that draws your eye. It might be a tree or a shrub. It might be a flower or a pot of herbs that you're growing on your backyard. Don't think about it. Just allow your eye to rest where it would like to rest. And then continue to breathe and feel your heartbeat. And if your eyes are closed, allow the image of a plant to come into your mind. It could be, again, any plant at all. A tree, a flower, maybe a plant that you remember from your childhood. And whether you are looking with your inner eye or your physical eyes, just allow yourself to notice the color, the shape of the plant. Allow yourself to notice how it moves. Just taking it in with your eyes, with gentle eyes that look respectfully, all the while keeping your hand connected to the center of your chest and breathing into the space around your heart. And then once you have had a chance to look at the plant with either your inner eye or your physical eyes, begin to imagine that you are breathing with the plant. So as the plant exhales oxygen, you breathe in that oxygen. And as you exhale carbon dioxide, see and imagine the plant taking in that carbon dioxide, which is its preferred air to breathe. And let's take a moment more here, just breathing this circular breathing with the plant as you inhale what the plant lets go of, and as you exhale what the plant needs. Don't worry about whether or not the plant is speaking to you in English or telling you any secrets. Just allow yourself to breathe like this. And if you find that you're distracted, just come back to the breath and come back to gently letting your inner or outer eye rest on the beauty of this little plant or big plant. And before we close, allow yourself to offer genuine gratitude and thanks to this plant as an ambassador for all of the green world, without whom none of us, no animals could live if it weren't for the plants and the green world. So you be an ambassador for all of us animals, and let this plant be an ambassador for all of the plants. And you can bow, you can imagine offering a strand of your hair. You can simply say a heartfelt thank you. And when you're ready, bring this meditation to a close and allow your hand to drop away from your chest. You can gently blink your eyes open if they have been closed. And this is a method that you can use. We did it in a very short period of time, but this is a method that you can use in your inner mind, or ideally, if you can go out and be with a tree or a plant, in order to just experience this connection and this mutual support. I highly recommend it.
Woohoo! I have a new term for this meditation.
Tell me.
A plant-based heart coherence meditation.
I love it. Yeah, I'm very influenced by heart math, and
Yes.
so there's a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, I've got my little doohickey, my M-Wave 2, so I can be measuring my heart coherence somewhere around here and breathing with the plant. And I was breathing with this giant rose bush outside my window. How can you not get into that state of heart coherence?
And the rose is has always been associated with the heart. And so that is the ultimate plant to choose if you need heart medicine.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, Melanie. This has been phenomenal. This has been so much fun.
Thank you. It was absolutely my pleasure. You have such a beautiful spirit, and I hope this is helpful for everybody listening.
Exceptionally helpful. It has been so much fun here as well, and you have so much to share. So got to crank it back up for the finish here. For
Yes.
everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the simple guide to natural health, and begin improving your health naturally today, and shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you so much, Melanie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!